How about we move on to education? What's education? It's just build more schools, right? Sure. That's the answer to everything. Build, build, build. Because it's money. Money coming out of our pockets into the private sector pockets. Amazing. So what are the problems, What about indoctrination? That's been around for a long time in schools. You've got a school syllabus, memorize, 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 regurgitate, regurgitate, regurgitate. Is that the best way? Are there debates on that? I don't think so. What about school hours and homework? All the homework, These kids, this is early in their life. They should be able to enjoy life. They should be able to explore life. Explore and understand who they are. But schools are gearing children up for the workforce, not for life. Like life is to work. Your enslavement. Even things like school uniforms. How impractical some of the school uniforms are in Queensland. We've got people fainting in the heat because the material's too thick, Some of them just look silly. I'm sorry to say. But anyway, it's a small point, but anyway. What about access for education for all? What about some of our regional communities that don't have access to education? And if that's the case, what about homeschooling? I think it's almost treated as a taboo to homeschool, right? It's like part of the new immigration, I think I read, that if you're becoming a citizen here, one of the things is you've got to get enrolled into school. What's wrong with homeschooling? Because you're getting out of the syllabus that brainwashes you into thinking, the system's the right way to go. You get children from an early age. That's what I mentioned in a minute about daycare. What about daycare? I'll mention it now, actually. Two-parent families working because they need the money. Apparently they need the money because of increasing debt, because of not so much increasing prices, but in terms of mortgages now. Mortgages are a very high percentage of the annual income. So almost anyone who wants to buy a house has got to get a mortgage, and the mortgage eats a massive chunk out of your monthly income. And that pushes two parents into working, and that pushes the children into daycare. How about universities, standards of universities here? What goes into that? Seems like it's more of a money-making operation rather than actually having quality universities. Or special needs education, for that matter. Where's that debated? And the different special needs as well. Certain children have different things. Someone with Down syndrome is going to be different from someone with autism. So these debates you don't hear. And why is that? Because there is no debate. They debate over the minor things. That doesn't make any difference. And that's where you do not have a choice. Let's now look at immigration. Talk about immigration. Stop the boat people. Immigration's a lot more than that. Most people don't come by boats, for example, that migrate here. They come by planes. Okay? And you can use your migrants to fix your skill shortages. I think there's been talks about that, but they've got these redundant schemes that's, and then people get booted out because someone in their family doesn't meet the criteria. There was a doctor, I think it was, had a Down syndrome child that was booted because he was Down syndrome, even though the community needed him. So it's so rigid, and that's the thing as well, the massive amount of bureaucracy when it comes to immigration here. I remember when I migrated here, I had to go to New Zealand for 4 weeks because it was an offshore visa, couldn't be done onshore, whatever. It's absurd. He told me it'd take a week, it took 4 weeks. We've got other visas that take 20, 30 years. I can't even get my mum into the country. I've been in Australia for 12 years, I've been Australian for 3 years. My mum can't come here. My brother can't come here because he's got Down syndrome. So it's based on his medical condition and being Down syndrome. That's not going to change, even though he's perfectly healthy. He can't come here because he's got an extra chromosome. And what about keeping qualified students? You come here, you get a good education, and then they're out the door. There's very little incentive to bring these skills into the country. What's the debate? Where is the debate on any of this? You tell me. Infrastructure. That's an interesting one. You spend lots and lots of money on roads and things like that. Roads that don't mean anything. Brisbane, Clem 7, don't get the cars tolled. Airport Link, don't get the cars. Okay, all this money. They're going to build Cross River Rail, $5 to $6 billion on something that probably isn't needed because you've got other things in place. All these billions and billions of dollars. And what about regional Australia? What about some of your indigenous communities? Some of them don't have running water, proper sanitation, proper healthcare facilities, or even proper houses. None of that. None of it. But we're spending billions on other stuff. What about energy? What about Tesla's ideas around free energy? Or we just going to stuck with Edison's stuff in terms of that side of it. Tesla had a lot of great ideas around free energy. All of that got buried. Where's the debate on looking into that stuff again? What about expensive public transport? It's so expensive in Brisbane. Price has gone down a little bit. It's expensive enough to keep people back on the roads, keep the roads congested, so you've got to put more infrastructure to resolve that problem. So more money is coming out because you're creating problems. You're creating problems and then you're solving problems, and the money comes out of our pockets. And that money goes into whose pocket? Private sector's profit. Some of these large corporations that build things, it goes into their pockets. Wow. Oh, okay. What about the high concentration of people working in urban areas? And that's all encouraged because we're building this infrastructure so people can go in there. And it's something I talk about in my transport conferences, about induced demand. You build it, they come. You build it more, they come. More and more people come, and that's facilitated as well because our buildings are getting taller and taller in the city. If you have lower buildings, less people can come to the city because it can cater for less people. But instead, you're building all these big buildings, and people are coming into the city. Supposedly, we're going to have economies of scale, if you want to call it, but at the same time, it's all focused on an area and doesn't need to be. We're creating problems, and it's always important to create problems, especially within the government system, because then we get solutions and people get behind it, and we pay more money, and the rich get richer. What about our military expenditure? Notice that's been going up recently. Who are we going to invade? They call it defense. But really though? When we go to fight, we fight for the US. You fight whatever they fight. But we used to fight for Britain. How about foreign policy? That actually leads right into that now. So, no matter what party, no matter whether it's Liberal or Labour, it's always behind the USA, always fighting their enemies. Even to the extent you've got Turnbull, who was disagreeing, decides, I want to be like Trump. So he comes up with all this immigration stuff and all following in line. Because you have to follow the USA in everything. That's how Australia works. You've got to follow the USA in war, follow them in policy. Where is the independence from that? And no matter what party gets in, it's the same. It's the same. Why don't we talk to countries from an Australian perspective? It's Australia. If you're from the US or from England, again, it's the same with your countries. Of course, US, you're obviously not following yourselves. At least you've got some independence on that. But again, the UK does the same thing, doesn't it? It follows the US on everything. Why can't we frickin' think for ourselves? Why can't we think for ourselves and actually find out the real information about these countries and actually engage with them rather than just following them? And that leads us into another thing. What does Australia always do when it comes to wars? They fight other countries' wars. And then what do? We go and celebrate them as heroes. What? Celebrate them as heroes for fighting other countries' wars. And they're not even fighting other countries' wars, they're fighting other elites from other countries' wars. Like you look at Anzac Day and the wars they fought, people have died, but they haven't died for Australia. They died for the elites. They died for them to have more money. And the war on terrorism, war fighting against terrorism. What's the big thing there? The big catalyst in that was what? September 11th. The US blow up their own buildings. There's so many people still think that a plane could crash into it and then the building can disintegrate underneath it and disappear just like that. Because of the lies. It's all what they call false flag operations. And countries just blindly follow. Just blindly follow. There's no democracy in that. What about foreign aid? You know, how do we fit that in? How do we work with other countries where you've got multinational companies exploiting them? You talk about immigration and keeping out the migrants are all rushing here from Syria, Australia not really, but Europe, they're only rushing out of there because the West is bombing the hell out of them. So they've got to get out and go somewhere. But you don't want them here either because then you're talking about ISIS people, you know, slipping in and creating problems. And what about doing things on the secret we don't know about? Like the TPP, for example. That was kept secret for ages. All these trade relationships and partnerships, and who did they benefit? Clearly not the people. They weren't involved. What about social side of it? There's so many social issues we can raise. None of them are hardly ever touched or raised in public debate. Like, for example, rising incarceration rates. America, it's ridiculous and how bad that's got. Even Australia is getting bad. The rate is going up. It's not just the number maybe, okay, more population. Again, you'd want to keep it fairly constant, you hope, you wouldn't have as many people going in there. But no, the actual rate of people being in prison is going up. Then we talk about gay marriage. How about talk about gay rights? No, for that matter, talk about human rights. This is not just gay. What about people with disabilities? What about race and gender? What about their rights? Where are the debates on those? What about congestion in the city? Fix it by building more stuff. What about demand management policies in regards to how about flexible working hours? Why are we all working from 9 to 5? Why are we all going to work every day? What about those things, you know? Why is that not talked about? We have the technology. You can work from home. You can work from like a satellite center. That all can be done. Look at all the things we've got. We've got Skype. We've got, what is that other one? We've got LinkedIn, I think it is. All these various things that you can communicate with each other. Even Facebook, you know? All of this stuff where communication can be done. And you don't have to be within the city, but that's not done because they want people in the city. They want people in the city to have higher demand so that they can build more stuff. And you can justify that. It's a problem created that's not necessary. What about the focus on small crimes, the drug crimes, people smoking marijuana? That sort of stuff that's focused on. What about the bigger stuff? What about the bankers ripping people off? When do they get looked at? I don't know, 2008 in the US. You know how many bankers got arrested? I think it was one. One! That caused the whole economy to collapse. That caused people to lose their jobs, their homes and everything. It was massive. There's no focus on that. It's focused on the little people, the little crimes. There's no debate on that. What about road safety? All the people dying on the roads. What about cigarettes? They banned marijuana, but look at cigarettes. It's killed so many more people than what marijuana has ever done. But yet that one's illegal and cigarettes are legal. Why? It's money. Cigarette companies have money. Simple as that. Issues such as euthanasia and abortion. They've been debated before. Nothing's really changed though. How's either party got different points of views on that? A big one as well, a dissolution of family. That's a big one. Two parents working. Increased working hours family. Kids going off to daycare, kids going off to school. Families being broken apart. Divorce rates. What is that, almost like 50%? Broken families. What are we going to do about broken families? Again, what does broken families lead to? Crime. Another problem. Let's have broken families. Let's have the problem of crime so we can fix it by putting people in prison, by building more prisons. Let's do that. How about that, right? What about lack of passing on productivity gains to workers? Look at all the great technology we have these days. And yet we've got two people in the family working. Got the mum and the dad both working long hours, still working 40-hour weeks. Yet we have all this technology that effectively can reduce the amount of work to a fraction. I think it was one of the Venus Project, I can't remember his name now, but he believed that we could actually just get by working 2 hours a week because of technology, if it was done correctly. But what happens? We still work the same hours. All the benefits and gains from improved productivity, where does that go? It goes to the 1%. There is no debate about that. There is no debate about where those productivity gains should really go. None at all. Should we still be working 40-hour weeks? Maybe we should be working 20, 10. There's no talk about reducing it because of that. What about tax evasion by large companies? Who ends up paying the tax? The people that are working. Companies get away by claiming their profits overseas. What about devaluing of traditional women's roles? You've got this whole women's right movement, but why? Because men's jobs are worth more than women's jobs in the way that it's portrayed. You're a man, you're out working, you're earning money. That's more important than being home with the family. That's a perception that's being created. So they're saying more women need to get into the workforce, increase the participation rate, and that breaks up the family, and it creates all these additional problems. Do you see how it's all fitting in here? The women's role is important, of being in the home, being in the house. That traditional role is important. Even if you don't want to hold that role, let's say it's just a woman's role, you want to say that's sexist, but you should at least have someone in the house. Why would they both need to work? And that contributes to breaking up the family. Another one I want to talk about is animal abuse. I consider that a social problem. Greyhound racing is still legal. I think it was briefly illegal in New South Wales. Then they brought it back because people complained, or maybe people making money. We see animals suffer. because people want to gamble on the races, want to make a few dollars. In fact, they lose, more like lose a few dollars or lose a lot of money. Oh yeah, who makes the money again? Where does that go one day? Horse racing the same. Zoos probably not as bad. Been to some fairly good zoos. Australia zoo's fairly good. Circuses, the ones with animals, there's a lot of abuse going on there. The debates between the parties, I don't see it, I'm sorry. What about disrespect in Australia for our First Nations people? What about we're still taking their land? We're still taking their children, even though we apologise for taking them, because you come up with crimes where they're abusing them. And then, of course, we have Australia Day here, and what was that about? Oh yeah, that was about invading Australia and massacring the native people. It's a great day to celebrate, isn't it? Not to be proud of.